Jai Ma, welcome today. So we're here in the companion study session for the Nirvana Shatakam, and we're moving ahead. We're looking at verse 4 today. So as we begin to just deepen our understanding of what this verse means for us, how it can guide us on our journey, what reassurance it gives, what inspiration it gives, let's first just settle in and become ready to study together, to churn together, to become inwardly quiet so that our inner insight, our inner wisdom, our inner understanding can bubble up to the surface. Yeah. So we'll begin first with a prayer. This teaching that we've received has come to us through the oral tradition. You may have seen the satsanga that Acharya Shunya taught on this verse, or maybe not yet. That's also fine. So this knowledge has come to us, this lens through which we're looking at this text is through that lineage of teachers. But it's expressing a universal truth, a timeless truth. So we're also in this prayer, this moment of finding stillness, acknowledging that this wisdom has a deep source with no beginning, with no end. And so we're acknowledging that and we're savoring that and we're having gratitude for that. So I'll share a prayer that you can chant along, read along. It starts out with giving gratitude to the guru, to the teacher who has brought these for the first time into our awareness. That person is like a doorway, they're like a portal. And so we've had portals of opening us up to this wisdom. So we're acknowledging that doorway and that doorway has many doorways behind it, many teachers behind it, all the way back to the divine truth, Atma, knowledge, Vidya, Surya as a symbol of the divine. So you can meet me on an inhalation. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Shanti Prakashaya Namaha. Om Ayodhyanathaya Namaha. Om Shunyacharya Namaha. Om Atma Tattvam Namaha. Om Vidyatattvam Namaha. Om Suryaya Namaha. Hari Om Tat Sat. So welcome. So we're beginning today. The beautiful thing about these teachings is that we can join them at any moment. We can step into their current at any instant, and it's going to give us some kind of insight, some kind of truth that we can sit with, that we can churn, and that will illuminate for us a deeper inner understanding. And so that's what the practice of Mananam is to bring teachings into our conscious awareness. We contemplate on them, we let them kind of echo and reverberate inside of our being. And we find that as we open and allow teachings to do what they do, to vibrate inside of us, some things shift, some things fall away, some new insights emerge. So in this process of Mananam, that's what we're here and we're doing today. So I'll share with you a screen and we'll begin. Wonderful. So this is session 6, but we're looking here at verse 4. And where this verse takes us is it is following along the previous verses that we have looked at, in those previous verses, it has negated our subtle being, our mental faculties, our mind, our intellect, our ego, the memory, the senses, even the five elements. We negated the gross body. We said we're not this physical body, and we were guided through the layers of that physical body, the breath that moves the physical body, the body tissues themselves, the coverings, they called the koshas, the coverings, the sheaths, even our organs of action, how we move about in the world, our physical grasping and walking and procreating and eliminating, and all these physical components of our body. We said, I'm not those as well. Then we looked at the thoughts, the emotions that arise in us from our attachments to the world, and we negated those as well. We said, I'm not those troublesome and unpleasant emotions and thoughts. And we even looked at those valid desires that the Veda tells us it's okay to want certain things. It's okay to do certain things. That's the point of human life, the Purusharthas. We even said, I'm even beyond those. Those are still part of the human life. They exist, they're important, and yet Shivoham, am more expansive even than that pursuit. So building from this journey of deconditioning, of removing those layers, this verse 4 invites us to look at understanding this transactional reality, this common reality that all of us as individuals are sharing. And it's asking us how we engage, to look at and understand how we engage with the outer world and how our actions in this transactional reality are determining our soul's trajectory in future births. So this is what we're looking at today. This is the big piece of human existence that we'll be examining and finding out who we really are in and amongst that machination. So here's the verse. Here's how it begins. You can read along with the verse on the slide. You can simply listen if you'd like, but I'll just pronounce these words because many of them may sound familiar to you. And as we hear these words, you may be very familiar with Sanskrit. You may have grown up learning it. Or it may be something that just kind of sounds like tones, but you don't feel a grasp of meaning. But either way, allowing them to kind of wash over you, um, there's a benefit there. There's a benefit there. So no matter what your relationship is to it, simply allow it to enter the ear and then let it echo and reverberate within. So verse 4 of Nirvana Shatakam by Sri Adi Shankaracharya, and remembering that this is an utterance from him in full awareness of his deepest self. This is what just emerges from his deepest being, his inner knowingness. When he's expressing it in words, he's grasping at words to describe it. This is part of what he says. He says, Na punyam, na papam, na saukyam, na dukkham, na mantro, na tirtam, na veda, na yajnaha. Aham bhojanam neva, bhojyam na bhokta. Chidananda Rupa, Shivoham, Shivoham. Chidananda Rupa, Shivoham, Shivoham. So basic translation of this verse is saying I'm no virtue or vice, no pleasure or pain. I need no mantras, no pilgrimage, no scriptures or rituals. Neither am I the experience itself, nor the experienced, nor am I the one experiencing. I am the ever pure, blissful consciousness. I am Shiva. I am Shiva. So this verse here is revealing to us a the mechanism by which we get stuck in this loop of birth and death. It's the wheel of karma. It's the cycle of samsara. And when we allow ourselves to devote our attention and intention to the world around us, we continue to participate in this loop. And we'll go word by word and step by step to see the intricate, maybe not intricate, but the I would say actually straightforward map that this verse outlines for us, it diagrams for us, how that cycle happens, the usefulness of that cycle, but then the point at which it loses its utility, when our goal is ultimate self-recognition, when our goal is ultimate realization. This cycle serves a purpose, even in the best possible ways, only up until a point. So let's explore that cycle, and then let's find its edge of where it's no longer taking us forward on our spiritual journey. And then we'll leap off that edge into Shivoham. Shivoham. So first of all of us finding ourselves right now, we're here in a human birth, are we not? We've all taken a human birth. We have had many before this, definitely, and we're very likely due for a few more after this as well. But the human birth means we have these certain faculties. We have these certain faculties that allow us to engage with the transactional world around us, this outer world that's common to us all. These are like our physical body, that we can actually move and be in the world. We have a mind that can take in inputs, process it, and turn it into instructions for our physical body. We have an intellect where we can hold deeply held values, deeply held beliefs. We can run ideas over in our mind. We can discern between different things. We have a memory that allows us to recall experiences, allows us to learn and grow. We have an ego, which is simply our sense of I-ness. We find ourselves, it's useful and necessary in transactional reality to have a me. I need a me here so that I can engage with all of this. And then we have the senses, which are constantly absorbing impressions, giving us a way to orient and experience this outer world. And the interesting thing here is that the characteristics of our physical being, of our subtle being, what we're endowed with just by birth, even the circumstances that we find ourselves landed here on earth, the family that we're born into, the level of comfort or challenge we experience, what climate, what country, what political structure, everything around us, what we're born into is karmically designed, karmically determined. They are the flowering of karmic seeds that we ourselves have planted in past lifetimes. So whatever we're experiencing now from birth, and then the situations that come to us, the people that come to us, good and bad, these are all sprouts. These are all blossoms of seeds that we as an individual have planted over time. And what that is a whole study in and of itself. That's a whole exploration on its own, this law of karma. But this verse invites us to at least cursorily look at this today. So we use these faculties that we have, this body, this mind. We use these body and mind to think and to act during this lifetime we have right now. And which we know, these thoughts, these actions are moment to moment planting more karmic seeds, isn't it? So these karmic seeds that we're planting, and here we come to the first words of the verse, these can be categorized as punyam or papam. Punyam seeds, punyam karmic impressions that come from our thoughts and actions in this lifetime. Punyam are the kind of positive ones, sometimes translated as the merits. These positive intent, positive impressions, they are the ones that come from our intentions and our actions that are toward the benefit of all, toward the general upliftment, the general best interest, highest good of all beings. So they're an uplifting, light-bringing, a goodness. And the papam type of impressions are the sort of negative ones. These like negative credits, deductions in our bank account of karma. Sometimes people translate this as our sins. Sins essentially just means when we act or think in a way that is contrary to our deepest nature, to our real truth, when the self knows better, but the thoughts and the body go in the opposite way. When we say something, when we do something, when we think something that is not in alignment with our universal oneness of the truth of the self, this is a kind of crime, a kind of sin against our own self, if we want to use that word. Choose if you want to use that word or not. For some people, this word is quite charged. So it's with an intention to benefit our own ego, but not benefit all. It's with an intention to hoard and grasp, but not share. It's these type of things. So punyam and papam, these two kinds of, merits and demerits sort of happen. These are again those karmic seeds of impressions that are being planted. And depending on how much punyam we've accumulated, how much papam we've accumulated, we're planting that right now, and in future lifetimes, we will reap that, what we have planted. And so in this lifetime, we'll experience sukham and dukkham, the pleasure and the pain, the discomfort. So these pleasures and these pains that we experience, the sukham, again, this is the next pair of words that come in the first line of this verse. The sukham is the pleasurable, the nice things, the enjoyable things, the comforts, fulfilled wishes, the happiness, light-filled kind of experiences. And dukkham is the painful, the unwanted, the negative, the challenges, the hard blockages, the attacks we seem to get out of nowhere. This is the unpleasant, the painful experiences that happen in this transactional reality. This loop goes on and on. This loop goes on and on because we take a human birth, which is a flowering of past karmic choices. In that human birth, we act and we think and we do and we plant more karmic seeds. And in that same human birth, we experience sukham, dukkham, happiness, sadness, highs, lows. And what happens is we start again in this life, we begin reacting. We react to that happiness, that pleasure, and that pain. We feel something good come our way, and we want more and more and more of it. We chase it. Perhaps regardless of how ethical, we can achieve that pleasure and that joy. So we make choices, we take actions, we move toward things that give us this pleasure, and we run from pain and sorrow. We run from what is uncomfortable. We run from what hurts us. and we avoid it at any cost. And this part of the cycle, I'm talking about just the general lifetime. Okay, we haven't reached where we are in satsanga yet. So in this way, we are running from the pain. We don't see challenges. We don't see difficult relationships. We don't see self-sabotaging patterns as lessons, as opportunities to grow. We don't see them as repercussions for our own actions, whether in this lifetime or another. We see ourselves as victims, helpless. Uh, we avoid looking face to face at the darkness, the heaviness, the challenges. So those reactions we have to the pleasure and pain that just continually pops up in our day-to-day life. These reactions we have either consciously or unconsciously, they cause us to go on accumulating punyam and papa. We go on planting more karmic seeds because we're like a ping pong ball. We consciously or unconsciously try to do the right thing. We consciously or unconsciously react in ways that hurt others, trying to protect ourselves, feeling like we want to avoid pain. And so we are oscillating over lifetimes and lifetimes in this narrow band of ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. A little bit of growth, a little bit of loss, back and forth, back and forth. And this is what occupies the majority of our human existence, of our human births, are spent in this uh, back and forth. And so this is one loop that continues to happen. And what this loop goes on and goes on, and mostly we don't question it. Mostly we think that's how life is. Um, Mostly we try to get what we can while we can. We feel we only live once, so chase our happiness. We feel that life is just a struggle, and so we should just do whatever we need to do to survive and thrive as best we can. So mostly we continue locked in this cycle, and that's how we take birth and birth and birth and birth and birth. But then, and this is where we find ourselves in this cycle, then a part of us gets really tired of that merry-go-round. And a new step is inserted into this automation, this program that we've been running. And that's right where we are in this moment. Because eventually a lifetime comes where we finally get tired of looking for our ultimate happiness out there in the transactional world. We start to ask ourselves questions, who am I really underneath all this repetitiveness? There's a yearning that arises where we yearn for something greater than just that narrow bandwidth of existence, bouncing between highs and lows, chasing and avoiding, chasing pleasure, avoiding pain. And that feeling grows into a craving for a way out of this cycle. We want to get off this train because we're starting to think that maybe this train is going nowhere, that it's just running in a loop. And so this spiritual quest begins. We've looked all out there. The one last place we've not looked is in here. So our attention, our intention, our gaze turns within. And in that process, we encounter some kind of tradition, some kind of teacher. We observe outside, what do others on this journey seem to be doing? How are they turning inward? And traditions and teachers and others who are walking on this path recommend things to us. They say, hey, if you're wanting to journey inward, here's some things you can do. Here's some things you should consider doing. And what those are things like mantra, chanting mantras. They can be even in any religion, whatever karmically, whatever religion or philosophy or spirituality you encounter, there will be something like mantra, something like sacred sounds, something like words that you should repeat. And these calm and focus the mind. It's like putting in a new soundtrack to your life than rather than the obsessive ongoing thoughts that have gripped us for many lifetimes. These sacred words, sacred sounds from any tradition you encounter, but in this tradition, it's called mantra. So they become these reminders of our deepest truth. And we keep letting them reverberate. We speak them, we chant them, we think them, we look at them, we keep letting them enter into our being. So mantra. And it calms our mind and gives us something to focus on. Then there'll be things like pilgrimages. They'll say, if you want to have this spiritual journey, go to that place, go to this temple, go to this sacred space, go visit this wise person. So we use our physical body, we pick up this body from the chaotic places it's been sitting, the heavy depression of sitting on our sofa alone. We are told, pick yourself up, go walk, go travel, go do what it takes to get yourself there. And you're literally orienting your compass, your physical compass, and bringing yourself towards truth, bringing yourself towards something sacred. So we have to do that if we're wanting to reverse this cycle we're stuck in. So we're told to go to physical places, even if we, in the midst of our busy, busy lives, you're a stock trader on the floor of the stock exchange, and there's all this rajas, people yelling and screaming and shouting and chasing this and chasing that. They're saying, yeah, but when you do that, make sure you take a week off and you remove your body from there and bring it somewhere where there is peace, where there's quiet, where there's inner reflection, where there's contemplation. So we're told to go somewhere. We're told to look at the Veda, sacred texts, and study them. And in that process, we intellectually, cognitively at first, unlearn what this karmic cycle has us believing. We start to gain clues of what deeper reality is there. So through that study, through that listening, through that contemplation on sacred texts, which are all reports, they're all like first-hand reportage from folks who have experienced what it is we're yearning for. And so we say, what do they have to say about it? I'm looking for something. Can you describe it to me? So we hear what they're saying, we listen to what they're saying, we study their words, and we let that churn in our own being. So they say you have to study. And then they tell us you should do yajna. You should perform what is translated here as sacrifices. And it's a couple different meanings of that word, and this encompasses all of them. So it's saying we should do rituals. We should fill our time, choose our spending our resources on doing rituals, which mean performing actions in a sacred space that keep reminding us of our inner deeper truth. It also means, and what Acharya Shunya briefly explored, and I do hope in Vedic Studies Circle, I know we will continue to explore these pancha yajnas, the 5 yajnas. These are recommended things that you should do each day. Sacrificing meaning giving of yourself, giving of your time, your resource, your energy for the benefit of others. And those others include the benefit of our guru, our teacher, the person who you find is giving you truth that is reaffirming your own deepest truth that you know, that they're giving you a kind of knowledge that is beginning to quench this thirst you've been feeling for self-realization. So we do some gesture, some support for that, symbolically, tangibly, anything. We do some kind of yajna, we do some kind of sacrifice, some kind of giving to other human beings. We help feed the poor, we help heal the sick, we help support those in need. We do something to help others. We listen to a friend who needs someone to talk to. We be available for helping other people. We also do the yajna of to nature, to plants, to animals. That could be watering a plant in your house. That can be going to clean up the beach. That can be feeding a stray cat or a dog in the neighborhood. That can be anything. That can be conserving your living lightly on the earth where possible. We do some kind of sacrifice to benefit nature, animals, plants, the environment. And then we also do some kind of sacrifice in recognition of the divine, God, Ishvara, whatever form resonates with you. So that's can be a puja, that can be meditation, that can be just folding palms and giving gratitude. We orient ourselves towards giving our time, giving our awareness to that greater consciousness than our small little self. In this process of sacrifices, can you see how using these kinds of tools, these kinds of practices, chanting mantra, going on pilgrimage, studying the Veda, sacrificing our own resources for the benefit of others, all of this has the profound effect on our mind, on our physical body. If we introduce these kinds of practices into our daily rhythm, now we're trending upward. Now our karmic cycle is trending upward because the more that we're giving to others, more punyam is being accumulated. The more that we're being conscious of our speech by chanting mantra, by making sacred the own sounds that are coming from our own body, we'll be very less likely to curse someone, to yell at someone, to scold someone unnecessarily. Our speech becomes a tool of truth, becomes a tool of clarity. And that now is coloring our whole transactional reality experience. These kind of karmic seeds become planted. So now we're fiddling with the loop. Now we're playing with the gears of this system, aren't we? Because we've turned toward this kind of guidance from a trusted and true spiritual source that has not its own ego growth in mind, but actually the benefit of us, following those recommendations, we're improving our karmic circumstances. And so now this loop is now impacting our future births. Now, next time we're born, it might not take us until we're 85 years old to find a teacher. Maybe now we can be 55 and find a teacher. Maybe next time we're born with a little bit more financial and housing stability so that we don't have to spend all our time working on surviving. We can raise our gaze and start to spend more time looking in, start to spend more time studying from that place of artha, stability, from our place of mm, abundance, like this. So these karmic seeds improve our circumstances. We're planting more seeds of punyam through these practices, through these deeds, through changing our thoughts. It cleans up our subtle body. Now, our mind having been purified through these practices, purified means calm down a little bit. Purified means letting go of some of those attachments it was so stuck on. Just calming down a little bit in the chasing sukham and avoiding dukkham. Our mind becomes purified. Our subtle body becomes purified. Our gross physical body becomes purified. Our emotions become more pure. And that by that I mean they become simply waves that arise, give us some information and fall away. We don't react out of them. All this benefit happens because of these practices. However, and maybe we should just pause for a moment and just breathe because this is where we are right now. This part of the loop, we have everyone who is in this classroom now, who is watching this recording, congratulations, because you're now looking under the hood of this karmic cycle that has kept each and every one of us stuck. And now by sitting with satsang, by sitting in community, by listening to these words, by churning them in our minds, we're reversing that tide. We're reversing that whirlpool, which is nothing but good news. And we can feel here the gratitude for the teachers, for the guidance that we receive from all places, for our ancestors that help us, from the friends that help us, from everyone who is conspiring for our well-being. It's all helping us on this journey. And so we exist here for some time. We can spend a few lifetimes. I don't know how many lifetimes, but we can spend time letting these things do their work on us and bringing us closer and closer to awareness of the self and softening our grip on samsara, our grip on this transactional reality, and allowing us to entertain the idea that we may possibly be something more. But the thing is, even these actions, even how wonderful they still keep us inside the loop of karma. They still keep us purified karma, punyam, beneficial, auspicious, shining with light, more sattva filled than rajas and tamas. And we are going on still planting seeds. So in the beginning, when the whole field was full of weeds, full of poisonous plants, full of deep, dark tanglements, planting positive seeds was the right best thing to do. Clearing out what's creating a dark and scary and heavy jungle of this transactional reality and putting poppies instead, putting roses instead, that was the right thing to do. So, while our samsara, while our transactional reality improves, that freedom is still one step away. Is still one step away. This is where we encounter inside this verse, which is all about the negation. You'll remember that neti neti, that not this, not this, not this. This verse is this entire six verses, the first five verses are delicately and without a sense of preciousness, but with a sense of sacredness, unpeeling these fine, fine, fine layers that are covering the self. And the wisdom of Vedic wisdom, the Vedic wisdom is in a radical expression of truth, in a grand gesture that acknowledges our innate divinity and sidestepping the option to trap us again in some kind of dogma, to trap us in a dogma. Advaita Vedanta leads us to the declaration that we hear from Adi Shankaracharya in this verse. He's saying, even those things, the things that trap me in samsara, and even the things that seem to improve my case, bring me more positive karma, I am not those. And so again, we hear this refrain from him, which is that I am Shiva, Shivoham, Shivoham. The recognition here is that there is an eternal presence that encompasses, that infuses, that transcends this samsara cycle of transactional reality. So that's why he leads us to this recognition that not only I'll bring back the I'll bring back the first verse so we can see it one more time. You can see those words. He says, na punyam na papam. I'm not my positive karmic impressions. I'm also not my negative karmic impressions. I'm not that. I'm not saukyam or dukkham. I'm not sukha or dukkham. I'm not the pleasure that I experience. I'm not the pain that I experience. I'm the Shiva. I'm not the mantras that I repeat. I'm not the tirtam, the pilgrimages I go on tirtam. When you go to a temple, they give you tirtam. They give you the some blessed uh, water or substances which you take in, which you bless your body with. I'm not the pilgrimages that I take. I'm not the Vedas. I'm not even the knowledge that I get from these teachings. I'm not the sacrifices I do, small and large, in my life. I'm not those things. I am Shiva. I am Shiva. So before we move on to the third line of this verse, let's spend a moment just allowing that practice to echo within us. Um, so I'll give you just a moment here to breathe and become aware that we have been inside of a karmic cycle for many lifetimes. And there's been this constant planting of punyam, of positive karmic impressions, and papam, negative karmic impressions. And that whatever circumstances we find ourselves in now as a result of those, and we breathe in, we exhale, knowing that we are not those karmic seeds or fruits. And we glance at the pleasures and the pain that comes to us in daily life. Sometimes simultaneously, we can experience both pleasure and pain. We go through seasons of pleasure and seasons of suffering. And knowing that these are the flowered fruits of past karmic actions, thoughts, intentions, choices. And remembering I am not the pleasure and pain that I experience. And looking at the mantra, perhaps you have a practice of chanting or just being familiar with sacred words and holding those words in a space of reverence and then letting them go, knowing they're leading you to a doorway which eventually you step through. Looking at pilgrimages, that's retreats, that's a space where you go to be with your own self. And knowing you're beyond that need. It's beneficial. It's taken you here. It will take you further. And eventually you will release and know it's not you. And the Veda, sacred texts, so valuable as anchors in our journey. And knowing that they're pointing us only to this deep experience waiting for us within. They are the most important guides and signposts to bring us close to awakening. And then we set them aside and resolve back into ourself. Shivoham. And yajna, sacrifices, the right action, the generosity, the service. We give to everything in this entire creation. We set aside the ego and be of service to this transactional reality and how that purifies our being. But then we touch that part of us that is always pure. Shivoham. So, like that, we take these words by words, we hold them up, we see what value, what lesson they have, and then we release them back and resolve back into that inner space. Yeah. Finally, in this verse, again, Adi Shankaracharya uses some very poetically combined words. Bhojanam bhojyam bhokta. This is translated as the enjoyer. So I'll bring a picture here which comes to mind, which is the kind of image that comes to me when I consider this line. Here we see an image of a person having a good meal. There's a man seated at a very nice hardwood table, and there's multiple dishes there, and there's kind of some twinkling lights. He's got a good environment. He's wearing fresh, clean clothes. He's eating this food, and his eyes are closed. He's got full attention and enjoyment on what's entering him. And there are three things that this image highlights for us. These three words are very beautifully illustrated in this image. One, there is the act of enjoying. We're witnessing him enjoying, right? He's verbing right now. He's actually actively enjoying. So there's the activity of enjoying. There's the object that he's enjoying, which is the food, beautifully presented in a balanced way, in a beautiful place. And then there's the enjoyer. There's him, who's the person who is getting that sense impression, who's enjoying the food. And one thing that we know is that enjoying things inside of samsara is perfectly allowed. It's very much okay. In fact, the Vedas have the whole Purushartha that's telling us how to enjoy and what to enjoy. That Kama Purushartha is saying, enjoy. That's a valid aim of human life. But the problem comes, of course, when we attach our identity, our worth, our happiness, our meaning, um, to what it is we're enjoying, to our identity as the person who is enjoying. And so when we negate this identification, we identify with the act of enjoying, with what is enjoyed, with ourselves as the enjoyer. We're being reminded that all of that activity is happening in this transactional reality. It's all happening in the samsara. It's all happening on one certain plane. And we are something else. Acharya Shunya often describes how we are a witness. We are the silent observer of what is happening. So very often we get fused in with this act of enjoying and what we're enjoying and who I'm enjoying and I want to enjoy, and all that gets tangled up. We get fused with this, these three words in combination. Um, and we get stuck there. And that keeps us again in this loop that is looking at the transactional reality and saying, this is what's real, this is what's real, this is what's real. I am who I am inside of this. And it makes it harder for us to step outside of it. Now, there's useful tools, there's useful ways to focus on the idea of the act of enjoying the what we're enjoying, our role as an enjoyer. Um, just like we saw with mantra, tirtam, Veda, yajna, there's a transactional reality utility. So, firstly, we become very conscious of what is it that I'm enjoying? When am I enjoying things? What is it I'm engaging with that's giving me pleasure or that I'm consuming through any of my five senses? And what is my relationship with it as the enjoyer? So we bring consciousness to that. And that again does the same things as before. It purifies our thoughts, purifies our being. So the example I have here of this is I used to teach Ayurveda classes to children, school children, like first to high school, first, elementary school to high school. And I would teach them that consciously what happens is the food that you digest, it goes in and it becomes your body, you know? I'm teaching them that the foods you choose to consume, in a sense, they become you, you know? So that brings this conscious awareness to that I'm not teaching in that moment transcendence, like this verse is telling us. Instead, I'm teaching them in that kind of classroom how to be intelligent operators inside of transactional reality. So the reason we bring conscious awareness to this, what am I enjoying? How am I enjoying it? Who am I that is enjoying? First, we bring conscious awareness to it because a mind, again, with the example of the children, a mind that is fueled by whole grains and diverse fruits and vegetables is much more likely to be able to become still, relaxed, calm, reflective, than a mind that is overflowing and crackling with synthetically dyed candy and Cheeto Puffs, right? So in this transactional reality, it's very useful for us to be quite sensitive, aware, and intentional about any sensory object we bring in and how we relate to it as an enjoyer. Similar, well, not similarly, another facet of this is that the idea of enjoyment can be in relation to good or bad or positive or negative things. Another translation for this is instead of enjoyer, we can say experiencer. So my experiences, what my activity of experiencing the object or the situation or the circumstance I'm experiencing, And me as the experiencer, am I fused with that experience? Or am I aware that I am Shiva observing this experience happening? An example for this would be around working with traumas or negative experiences we have. So in this transactional world, when a person has experienced some kind of trauma, any kind of trauma, physically, mentally, emotionally, anything, we use therapy to reframe it. We use breath work, somatics to release blockages and let go of numbness and reconnect what's been disconnected, to rediscover safety in our own body and mind, etc. So we use this idea of even the negative experiences that we're having. We bring in this question: what is happening? What is being enjoyed? Who is enjoying it? What is the act of enjoying or experiencing? And this contemplation that we're hearing in verse 4, at the end of the day, we negate our identification with that trauma. We look at that trauma experience as an experience, but I am Shiva, the observer. So this act of experience, we say, I'm separate from that experience. We look at the story of the trauma. What exactly happened? We say, I'm different from what happened. We look at ourselves as the victim of that trauma. We are not identified as I am a person who has experienced trauma. We separate out. My identity is Shiva. Shivoham. Shivoham. I'm separate from that. So in that context, when we look at this negation process as experiences, things negative, unpleasant, unhappy. The example I'm taking here is trauma, but it can be anything negative. It's something that happened, but I am not that. Something occurred, but my identity is not colored by that. I am not stained by that. I am something wholly transcendent of that. Similarly, you can again take this contemplation on bhojanam, bhojyam, bhokta, looking at things that we're sensorially attached to, addictions, sensory preferences. Maybe you really, really have to have a cup of coffee multiple times a day. This contemplation, inserted at the right time, can help kind of question and break that dependency, that leaning. We like to have the presence of certain people around us, and now we say, oh, wait. Let me look at that experience. What am I experiencing? What is the experience of having people around me always? Who are these people that are coming I need near me? And who am I as this person that is dependent on this experience? Just that question alone unlocks and unhitches us from a fusion with this samsara. So this is the negation that happens in these three lines. This is all what we unpack, all what we unburden ourselves from. And finally, the refrain from this text at each juncture, at each that rhythmically comes. And you can place a hand on your heart or a hand on your belly, or just come back to that truth where he continues to tell us that Chidananda Rupa, Shivoham, Shivoham. I am that pure consciousness and bliss. I am Shiva. I am Shiva. And we rest there. After each verse, we release and then we rest in our fullness. We let go of all we are not, and then we come back and remember who we are. And this is a new cycle. free of karmic liabilities and calculations. But this is where we let it go, and that cycle dwindles and comes to rest, where we can reside in that awareness of our inner Shiva. I'll give you just a few moments to breathe and allow everything that we've explored today to simply settle and washing through. You're welcome to journal or contemplate. Please do join us and share what emerges from you on our community forum. Maybe if you'd like, you can add a word in the chat if you want to share just one word that comes up from this verse. Then we'll close with our closing prayer today. I'm hearing calmness and peace. Beautiful. Rested. Loving the concept of negation. Yeah. Joy. Yeah. When we let so much go, we discover there's actually this wellspring of joy right there. Beautiful. Thank you. Well, let us close with our closing prayer. And as these contemplations simmer with you, please do feel free to bring your questions that emerge, your contemplations that come up to the community forum, and we can contemplate them together there. So let us close now. This prayer is moving us from untruth to truth, from darkness to light, from the idea that we are living and dying and living and dying to the truth that we are expansive and transcendent of that entire cycle. Join me on an inhalation. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Peace Peace Peace. Jai Ma. We'll meet again very soon.